Hey guys, Pablo here for my fourth vlog episode. Today we have decided to move from my dorm room to the kitchen in Battelle on the first floor, just to give you the viewers a bit of a change of scenery. Today we'll be discussing Burgess's and Green's book, and we'll be focusing specifically on two chapters. Those chapters being chapter 2 and chapter 3. So for chapter 2, entitled YouTube in the Mainstream Media, there was one section that I wanted to focus on and titled The Meaning of Amateur Video. And there was a quote on page 21 that I found pretty interesting. Or not so much of a quote, but a little phrase that I found particularly intriguing. And that would be that raw talent combined with digital distribution can convert directly to legitimate success in media fame. And then the other one being Nick Caldry of 2003 argues that in mainstream media, the distance between ordinary citizen and celebrity can only be bridged when the ordinary person gains access to the modes of representation of the mass media. So what I really focused in this chapter, and I completely agree with, is that there's a very amateur, you see, especially nowadays, with videos being shared all over on YouTube, but as well on Facebook, with Vine and Snapchat as well, and Instagram. So many media interfaces besides YouTube. An amateur video can gain a lot of fame. One video particularly can go viral, but the big thing is that YouTuber who may not be going out for popularity can start creating content that appeals to a wider audience. For example, who knows, maybe someone sees my video that I'm filming currently, finds it funny or interesting, and then shares it to a wider audience. I could then become popular or famous from become a celebrity, perhaps a YouTube celebrity. So I think that this is actually a really true part of the book, and it's something that is true about YouTube. The other chapter that we'll be discussing today will be chapter 3, titled YouTube's Popular Culture. And what I wanted to focus on were a few different aspects of this chapter. On page 39, we have a definition of what the chapter was looking for, and it's what defines the term popular. So it goes, is the popular simply a matter of degree, how popular a particular cultural product is, measured by its reach or sales, or is it a matter of kind, the cultural forms that are loved intensely or that are of the people? So I found this was a good way to sort of introduce the chapter and see what the meaning of popular was. And then secondly, on page 51, I found something incredibly interesting because the whole point of this chapter was to decide what was popular on YouTube, and they used a few different sources. They looked in a particular time frame what videos were most favorited, most views, most discussed, and most commented on. And there was a certain trend, and I wanted to elaborate a bit my thoughts on why I agree that this trend makes sense. So what you see, the quote goes on the bottom of page 51. User-created content makes up more than two-thirds of the content coded in both the most responded and most discussed categories, where it comprises 63 to 69% respectively, a dramatically higher percentage than traditional media content, especially when compared to the most viewed category, where the situation was reversed. So I think that the focus on here is that this is really showing that user content, so something that people at a more local level would make, such as myself or other students, is shared easily. It's more discussed because it's something of a local matter. Let's say you have music videos from a kid in your town who's trying to become a bit more successful. Those videos would at first be shared just around, like, I don't know, high school. So like it gained some popularity, but not in a viral form. While I think that the most viewed category really shows that corporate videos are what are the videos that are most viewed, and that makes sense for me. And I completely agree with what the authors wrote, because I feel like the corporate channels have the ability to broadcast their videos to a much larger audience. They have the perhaps the money for the advertising, and the other thing is they have the name, so people will trust those videos. If they see that there was something funny and they hear it's from NBC, then they're willing to go for it and check it out. And also NBC just has an incredible capability compared to your local high school rapper to really broadcast or market out their name or their video in particular. So that's why I really agree with this trend. Lastly, I wanted to elaborate on the question proposed by our professor, which stated, who is the you in YouTube? Is YouTube still the domain of the amateur and the individual? And have commercial interests ruined YouTube? So me, I wanted to take this more from a corporate point of view, and I want to say that I focus on page 30, which was in one of the chapters that we read for today's class, and it was the copyright wars section. And I find that most big companies, and this is the part that I agree with, is that big corporate companies have the right to protect their content because I don't think it would be fair for us to just record something on NBC and then share it and then not have like a copyright claim or whatever. So big companies are trying to protect their footage, completely fine with that, because if they don't, then there's a big chance that they lose a lot of money, and there's probably a bunch of different bad things that can result of that. However, my thing is that um, I feel like in a way that is also taken away from the whole point of YouTube. So my critique of this, and it's not a critique of the reading, because everything that we read for today, as much as I could try to find one, I mostly agreed with a lot of it. My critique would be of this practice of corporate channels gaining a lot of control, is that it really limits the ability for the user, for your everyday civilian to watch videos, because I feel like something, for example, a channel like NBC during a time where there's going to be a lot of videos such as the Olympics, they could restrict it that only members who are paying the NBC service can watch these videos, and if you don't catch it live on TV, then you can't watch it. And I think that's unfair. I think that takes away from the whole point of YouTube, which is just if you want to share something funny, you can share it. Anyone can see it. You don't want any monopolies or any control over the video. So that'd be my main critique. And I think that commercial interest in that sense, I don't really find that they've done it yet, but that in that sense would in the future ruin YouTube. So for me, I still feel that the U in YouTube still exists, but I feel like there's some sort of change drifting towards the more corporate side, where videos will maybe in the future become more limited and less accessible to the general population, which would take away from YouTube's importance as a community, as a support system, and simply just as another media interface.